Hello, welcome to game night. Get comfy, take a seat, relax. Today, I'm going to be teaching you how to play Dulce. This game is fairly unique. Most games have some component of luck to them. Some games are completely luck, some games try to minimize the amount of luck and have it be mostly strategy. But this game is set up in a way so that there isn't a luck component between players. So everything that affects one player affects all players the exact same way. So they've minimized the luck as much as they can, which I think is a very unique layout for a game that I hadn't seen before this one. So this is a 2 to 4 player game. It's a engine builder game. Doesn't have anything to do with engines, but the format of the game is you sort of build a points engine and then you let it run for the game, let it gain points for you. I would say it takes, it says 30 minutes, takes about 30 minutes. So it's a short and sweet game, but it does have a good amount of complexity and strategizing to it. I'm gonna set this up and then I will take you through the instructions. Alright, so this is what the game looks like all set up. Not too much, nothing too crazy. The concept of this game is you are taking some sweet desserts from start to finish, from the field to sold as a cake in the cafe. And we have all these little ingredients here, so vanilla flowers, eggs, peanuts, chocolate. Those are all the little resources. They'll be generated by your fields, your crops, and they'll be used in your cafes to sell as product, and then that product gets you victory points. And everyone's kind of doing their own thing. So I have my little board here. There's not going to be a lot of interaction with the other players, actually. There's none at all. Sort of in the same vein as reducing chaos from luck, they've also reduced chaos in terms of interaction between players. You're all kind of in your own bubble, doing your own thing. Now I'll go over the player board. You can see it's sort of a grid, and the grid is both where you'll plant your crops, but also you can see there are 4 little buildings. Those are your cafes where you'll be selling your desserts. So as you play, you'll plant on this grid here. If you cover your cafe with crop, then the cafe is no longer usable, but you have these backup cafes which will be played to the side of your board and can be used the same way as the cafes on your board. Around the perimeter we have a little counter. The meeple will be used to count your victory points, and the chicken will be used to count how many eggs you get. And I'll go over that soon. So that's the board layout. That's kind of, you'll have all your fields on here. You'll have your cafes to the side. You have your point tracker around the edge. So now I'll go over the cards. You can see that there are 2 sides to the cards. One side is a cafe and the other side is the fields. And so each turn you'll be playing one card. Every single player will be playing the exact same card. So number 5 brownies, maybe number 21 creme brulee, but they can play it in different ways. So on the plant side, it will produce the 4 crops that are pictured with these little resource tokens. The cafe side has a little bit of different information. The name and the number are just for finding that card, but the most important information for gameplay are these little circles on the side. This indicates what the cafe needs in order to sell its product. These circles are the same 4 resources that you'll see to the side here: chocolate, vanilla, peanut, and coffee. Eggs are an extra resource because they're sort of a wild resource, wild card. They can be what you want them to be. So you'll see that the different resources have different numbers of rings around them, and this is a crucial part of this game. I wish it was a little bit more visually obvious, the number of rings, but it is what it is. So you can see here that the chocolate is at 3 rings, the vanilla is at 2 rings. So 3 rings means straight off the field. 3 rings means you can use it 3 times maximum. It is the least processed, so you can squeeze the most out of it. 1 ring means it's already been used a couple of times and it's like getting to the dregs, the bottom of the barrel. So what this means is you'll have a whole bunch of cafes and you'll be able to use your crops multiple times depending on the number of rings that are required by your cafes. So if I have a chocolate pod that comes straight off the field, that can be used in the 3 ring requirement, and then later that can be used in a 2 ring requirement, and then a 1 ring requirement. So it's like you're using the byproduct of the chocolate as you use it for different recipes. So depending on how well you plan, you could use this chocolate resource once, or you could use it 3 times. So the game is played in 20 rounds. Each round will be using a different card, and then there'll be a couple cards left over so you don't know which ones you'll be using. It won't be the exact same every single game. So I will go through what a round looks like. First thing you'll do is reveal the top card. There will be one person who is revealing the card. They'll tell everyone we're doing nut rolls number 20. All the other players will then look through their deck of cards to find the identical number 20 card, and they'll be playing with the same card as everyone else. The second thing you'll do is you'll pick your action. You have 3 different options: plant a field, build a cafe, or discard the card to harvest your crops. So first, planting a field. That'll be using the field side of the card. You will place it anywhere on the board. You can twist and turn it any way you like as long as it fits within the grid pattern. You can place on any of the fields with no consequence, but if you place over a cafe, then you can't use those cafes anymore. They're kind of like nice starter cafes. When you place the card, you'll then put the 4 resource tokens according to the symbols on the card. This action of planting the fields will only yield 1 harvest of the crop, so you won't be able to use these resources, replenish the same card. You'll have to plant new field cards in order to get more of those resources. As you play, you'll get more and more cards. If you would like to, and at some point you'll probably have to, you can overlap the cards on top of previous fields, but there is some interaction kind of between those cards that you overlap. So first, if you overlap any areas that have tokens on them, they essentially get thrown to the chickens. So you'll take those resources, discard them, and for each resource discarded, you'll move up your chicken counter. Then you'll look at if the resource, coffee, is different than the one below, peanuts, then you'll just place one resource as you usually would. But if you match the resource on top to the one on the bottom, then you'll double that resource. So I'll put 2 peanuts. So there's a little bit incentive to overlap with similar resources, but it doesn't always work out. So that's action 1, planting a field. The second option you have to choose from is playing the cafe. So on the other side of the card, you have this cafe. The action will be short and sweet. Place the cafe to the side, you're done for that round. The third option you have for your action is to harvest your crops. So let's say you've planted a whole bunch of fields, you got a whole bunch of resources sort of scattered around. You can discard a card. So you have your card for the round, throw it to the side, you don't get to use it, but you get to harvest this turn. So harvesting means choosing one column or row, and you take all of the resource tokens off of it, and you'll place them on spots on the cafes. So put a coffee bean on a coffee spot, peanut bean on a peanut spot. In this case, I have some extra coffee beans that don't have spots for them, so these have to get discarded, and they are fed to the chickens for 1 chicken each. I've been alluding to chickens a lot, and we are about to get to them, I swear. So the final step of the round is scoring. Only the people who harvested this round will score, and I like to make sure that we all score together because it is kind of tricky to wrap your head around. So for scoring, each cafe that has its resource requirements met will score, and then each of those resources will go down a circle. So they'll be processed 1 level. You can then reuse those resources for lower requirement, like we discussed. And once you've used it 3 times, then that resource disappears. You used it in totality. If you're only able to use a resource for a couple of levels, so let's say this is a level 2 vanilla, I can't use it on any of these circles anymore, this will be discarded and fed to the chickens. So there are kind of many ways you can keep track of the levels of your resources, but I'm going to give you the way that I recommend that has been easy for me to not get lost in terms of what all these resources are, because they have no indication if they're level 3 or 2 or what. So what I'll do is I'll place the resources on the card. When I score it, I will shift these resources to the right, score it, and then I will keep these resources here until I place them on the correct level resource requirement that I want to use it on. So if I'm scoring a couple of things, so let's say I'm moving on and I'm scoring this over here, and then I do that, and then I look back at this vanilla, I'm trying to remember what level it's on. You can see what level it was used at. Since it's to the right, it's 1 level below, it was used once, so this would be a level 1 vanilla. If you don't keep track of the resources, it'll get quite confusing. Did I just put this vanilla here? Was it already used? What level is it at? If it's over here, I have no clue. So it's good to be a little bit organized and take things step by step. And remember, if you have a higher level resource, it can be placed on a lower level requirement, but not the reverse. You can't use a 1 peanut on a 3 peanut requirement. So now the chickens come into play. If you've partially filled some of your cafe requirements, but you don't have all of the resources needed, you can spend 3 chickens to get 1 egg, and these are a single-use wild resource. So I can fill the requirement of any resource, but once it's used, it's immediately discarded. So that's pretty much the whole game. Like I said, it's 2 to 4 player. There is also solo play if you would like to. They have sort of scores to tell you what's good or not. And usually I like to play games with other people, but this game kind of makes the most sense solo out of any game I've looked at before because there isn't the interaction between players. But personally, I don't really play solo games. I just play a video game if I want to play solo. That's a me thing. And now I'm going to show you how to set up the game really quick. It's a pretty fast setup, so let me clean up and we'll get into it. So first, you'll choose your color as always, and you'll get everything of the same color. Player board, a little cheat sheet, your deck, and then your 2 little meeples. Then you will choose a lead player. It won't make any difference in terms of gameplay, but they'll be the ones that set the randomization. But they don't know what the randomization is, so it could be anyone, it doesn't matter. Lead player will shuffle their cards. If the other players want, they can sort their cards. It's not required, but it's kind of nice. So if you want to, you can sort them in numerical order so that when the lead player calls out number 18, number 22, it's easy for you to find them. The lead player will shuffle, then they'll randomly discard 4 of them without looking at them, and this will be your 20 rounds, 20 cards for the game. And of course, put out your resources. They can just be in the middle for anyone to reach. And that's it. That's all for setup. That's all for Dulce. I hope you enjoyed learning about this game. Let me know if you've played this before or if you'd be interested in playing this game. If you like to have luck in your games or if you'd be glad to play something that eliminates it as best it can. Let me know what you think. And I hope to see you again very soon.